Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. And we are back in for a bonus episode. And I'm absolutely loving these episodes, essentially deep diving on conversations that I have. And this one is going to be slightly different, guys, slightly different. So I'm going to be talking about an observation that I had. And this was at a show that I went to at the weekend. And the topic in itself is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And it's a topic that I want to be able to talk about to help you guys. And this topic is essentially post show and then that going into the reverse out. And you'd automatically think, right, when I'm doing these episodes, when I'm looking at different guests, etc., that topics would maybe run out in the bodybuilding space. But hopefully you can attribute to they don't. There's so many different angles to look at when it comes to bodybuilding and this topic in itself. You could think, oh well, post show you could just do one podcast on that. But there's so much because the different perspectives, the different angles, your own journey, your own experience when it comes to post show is going to change over the years, generally speaking. And absolutely, it can get easier to handle and manage, but it's not easy. And people reference this time as harder than the prep because the goal is removed. And what I'll always say is, guys, that the goal isn't removed because if you're bodybuilding as a lifestyle for longevity, there is always goals in every single phase. But it's on us and, of course, our coaches to look at what that looks like, what the timeline looks like, what you need to do to move forward when it comes to ending your season. Now, also, this is very apt for you guys that are coming up to finishing your season, or perhaps you have already finished your season. And if you're in this space of time in the reverse out, what I will say is that being able to learn from this time and plan accordingly is important. But then we have that emphasis on being able to learn. So even if there is a plan in place and things change, or maybe something goes in the direction you don't want it to, there's a multitude of things that can happen. It's important that we actually go, well, why did that happen? Why wasn't I happy with X, Y, or Z? What can I do moving forward? And that is key as bodybuilders in general, and particularly when we are looking to improve season to season. Because for sure, we could zone in on this being we want to improve our physique every time we step on stage. But how about we want to improve our mindset in the different phases? Perhaps we want to improve how we handle post show and the reverse out. And the list goes on. And that's important to acknowledge as well. Now, this observation that I had was of multiple conversations at the show. And it really brought back for me the experiences I've had post show, more so in the earlier days, where I felt huge amounts of pressure and confusion. And when you first start out, you don't know what it's going to feel like to be post show because you haven't done it before. You probably haven't pushed into a deficit for so long and so hard. This could be the leanest you've ever been in your life. How do we know? Your coach can tell you till they're blue in the face, this is what it's going to feel like, this is what we'd expect, here is the plan, etc., etc. Until you're there, guys, how do we know? Like with most things in life. And it can hit you like a ton of bricks. You can feel like there's something wrong with you. You can not understand an insatiable hunger that suddenly arrives as you start to put food back in. You can feel isolated. You can go a multitude of ways. You can overeat. You can self-restrict and undereat. And it's so person dependent to a certain degree. However, what I'm going to say is I've never met anyone that has perfectly executed the post show period without having essentially wobbles or thoughts and feelings they didn't expect, or I don't know what to do, asking more questions than normal. Like all of these things, it all counts towards, yeah, there's a plan, but you're a human being. You're a human being with thoughts and feelings. And this doesn't change, right? It doesn't get removed when you've done more seasons. You still have the physiological effects that occur. And mentally, the strongest of us can really, really struggle in this time. And even if it's just a case of the isolation you feel, if you want to improve on that, right, it's still something you can think, oh, and this is a really good example from one of the things that I've tried to respect and learn more from over my seasons is that I used to overcommit post show. So that's something I wanted to get better at because I felt like I was failing for people around me. So I would compete, finish my season, and then I'd have, meeting up with friends, doing things with my mum, da 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 da. The list would go on because I automatically thought, particularly as I say in the early days, that I'd have a post show meal. I'd be having more food in the reverse out and I'd feel so much better within a couple of days. And it is just not reality. And that's something I've had to get better at. So there's an example that you maybe wouldn't even think about, right? Because if you start to overcommit, if you say to people, oh, do this, this, and this, you can actually lead to potentially burnout. You can lead to not being your best self and causing problems in relationships. And I'm not saying you're a problem. What I'm saying is that you're not in a good spot, and that can essentially lead to a mixture of perceptions from people around you. Because I believe, and it's something I will continue to reassure, validate, etc., in my clients, with you guys, the podcast listeners, that I believe you should keep your diary open after a show. In regards to open, that you don't book a load of stuff in, not open and book lots of stuff in. I believe that we can, of course, plan the post show meal, perhaps the day after, maybe something even in that week with close people, guys. And then I believe you should start to see how you feel and decide what you want to do moving forward. If we start to pressurize ourselves in this time, for sure, it can lead to overwhelm, etc., etc. Now, when I'm referencing the observations that I had at this show, I'm actually talking about the essentially the thought processes when you're at the show before you've gone on stage, what you are focusing on. Now, I heard 4 or 5 conversations between coaches and athletes, but also athletes and family members about, I cannot wait to eat. I can't wait to get this over and done with so I can eat. I can't wait to smash some food after this show. And I heard those things literally, I heard them in person. And I and I don't want to, for me, it's not about me going, oh, you shouldn't fucking do that. Da, 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 da. I'm not here to be narky about it. I'm not here to, you know, give opinions that are, I don't want to be dismissive of how you might feel, essentially. I don't want to piss anyone off. It's not my vibe. However, I want to dig into this. I want to think about this because as I say, I felt pressures like this in my early days of actually hearing these types of conversations and thinking, okay, that's what it is, this is what I should expect. I should be thinking, let's get this out the way and focus on the post-show meal. And I feel like when I actually reflect that when I look at the social media space, how people do things post show, when I look at how clients and coaches interact at times, when I look at how essentially bodybuilders start to formulate certain narratives in the space between one another in their circles or whatever you want to call it, the hyperfixation on food post show is a thing. And that's hard to get away from when you're bloody starving, right? And this is where I say I'm not making opinions. I've been there, guys, a multitude of times. I understand what post show feels like. Again, when you listen to me talking about these things, guys, this isn't just someone sitting here going, oh, I've done one season, here's some advice. We're 7 seasons deep for myself, and I've just done the 19-week diet. So 8 times I've faced a reverse out. So never think that I don't get it. If you're listening to this and it's like, you don't understand, I'm fatigued, I'm hungry, my personal life's gone to shit, anything like that, I do understand because I've been there. I absolutely have. And as I say, it's a unique experience, but you know, it's I feel like it's a bit of a shame when you're not focusing on your stage performance. And this is my main ethos and what I want to get across on this episode. If you're and this is literally guys backstage pumping up. You've got a coach saying you get to eat soon, just keep going. Let's get this bit done, let's get you on stage and then you can have your pizza, you can have your bakes. So what happened to this being a prep where we are going on stage, right? And this is pumping up. You're literally about to go on stage. And the conversation is just get this out the way. You can eat soon. I think it's a shame. I really, really do. It's, I feel like, and as I say, I feel like it's a shame, but it's also, what are we doing this for, guys? Because if this isn't focused on bringing your absolute best to stage and your vision on the day to go, this is my time. I'm going to step on this stage. I'm going to exhibit my hard work for however long you've been in prep for. Afterwards, yeah, I'll get food. Food's available, guys. Food's absolutely available. Doesn't matter about that right now. What matters is what I do on that stage. And that's what, I feel is quite upsetting when these conversations are literally happening just before you're about to go on stage. Now, when it's people around you, I get it. I heard, and I'm guessing they were family members. Obviously, I don't know these people, but I heard an athlete with some of their supporters, shall we say, and they were saying, "What are you going to eat after the show? It's not until you go on and then you can eat." And again, it's like that would feel like pressure to me. Like, I don't want to fucking decide right now. I've got a job to do. I've got to step on stage. And, putting it bluntly like that and straight up, I think is important because when I have faced this really early on, I'd be like trying to pacify people around me because they're saying, oh, you're skinny, you've lost too much weight, da 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 da. You know the drill, guys. So I'd then be like trying to pacify them. Then I realized when I go for my post show meal, I'd have my plan set out of my guidelines from my coach and I'd follow those guidelines, but I'd feel pressured and I feel like, oh, I've got to eat all this food and people are watching me and they're thinking I'm skinny and there's comments and I just don't feel like that's a really nice way to celebrate what you've done, guys. We're we're pushing ourselves for months, day in, day out. We're not physiologically sound. There are extreme natures of our sport where we are absolutely being detrimental to our health. That can be a little bit towards the sort of mental health side of things as well. Again, this is very person dependent. I don't want to delve into that too much. However, what I will say as an extension of the observations I made is this type of pressure helping set you up from a mental health standpoint post show? I do not believe it is. What it's doing is pressurizing you, potentially increasing your food focus, potentially increasing the likelihood of post show becoming very out of control. It absolutely is. It was quite disheartening to see a coach essentially motivating an athlete while they're pumping up to tell them that they get to eat food soon, pizzas, bakes, etc. Like that really is wild to me if that's how you're motivating your clients. Again, this is my deep dive on this observation and these observations that I had. And this is the thing, in the prep you can be so tunnel vision. As soon as you start putting food back in, the hunger hormones start to go, hold on a minute, what's happening here? And it can become out of control. It absolutely can. So if we couple this with conversations that you might have around the show itself or, leading up to the show, maybe people start to say, oh, can we do this? Can we do that? Da, 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 da. Of course, it's going to drive potential thought processes. You are human at the end of the day. And I really want to, for this episode, I really want you to think about, if you're an athlete, to think about who you're surrounding yourself with and what is serving you. What is the reason you're stepping on stage? Is it to eat a post-show meal? Because I would say potentially you need to look at what your why is, guys, if I'm being honest. If you're a coach listening, please, guys, please listen to me. When you are working with people, prepping someone for a show, taking them through the post show and the reverse out, this is not a joke. Trying to tantalize people with food and saying, just keep going, you get to eat soon. Guys, you really need to think about what you're doing here to that person. You really do. If you have got something going on in your own journey where food is something that is causing a problem for you, if you could work on that, please try not to just put this into your clients because you're affecting people's whole lives, guys. You really are. You're taking people to potentially the leanest they've ever been. You are guiding that reverse out and that post show period of time. If you are saying to people, just get this done, you get to eat soon. Just get the show out the way. You can eat your pizza and your bakes. Just keep that focus for me. You are playing a part here, guys, into how that could affect this human being for the rest of their lives when it comes to the relationship with food. And I really want you to listen for me. If you're listening and you don't give a shit, then my words aren't going to carry any weight, are they? I like to think that my podcast listeners do give a shit and they are absolutely wanting to learn and evolve as coaches and as athletes. And I really want this episode to sit with you guys in whatever way it does, and hopefully think about, as I say, who you're surrounding yourself with, but also what you're telling yourself. Before I finish up this episode, I'd like to give a shout out to the one and only, my second BB mum, Sue. Sue, I've mentioned you on the podcast before, but I'd like to say thank you for your feedback about these mini episodes. You've absolutely essentially given me that validation to go, actually, I'm really liking these episodes. Keep going. And that's important because I want to serve you guys. And Sue said, she really likes that the guests I get on and the conversations I have are honest. And she might not always agree with every single thing, but at least they're honest. Guys, that to me it means more than words because that's what I want. There's a reason I select the guests I do. There's a reason that I vet the guests. And there's a reason why the podcast will continue to grow strength to strength because that it is my life's mission to do that. So thank you for listening, guys. If you found this useful, please, of course, tell your friends, share it on your stories, message me, comment on YouTube, whatever it is you can do to support that I am heading in the right direction. Of course, I'm here for it. Thank you for listening, guys, and I will speak to you real soon.